Hi, my name's Turan Mirza. My company is Feel Good Hypnosis, and today we're going to be talking about lots of fun things, all revolving around hypnosis, what it is, how it can help you, how it can help your business, and just going to be a really good educational video.
Welcome to ProfileTree TV. I'm Michelle Connolly and we're here today in the Innovation Factory on the Springfield Road, and we're talking to Turan Mirza about all things hypnosis. So Turan, over to you. You can tell us a little bit about what you do and your background. That would be lovely.
Indeed. Well, where do we start? There's so many questions in that one line there. So my background, people always ask, how do I get into this business? So my background is actually, I used to be an engineer, a software engineer.
Really?
I actually studied as an electronics engineer at the University of Ulster and did my year out in industry with British Telecom Software Centre, and from there decided to go into software engineering. So I worked for Nortel for many years, and then I moved into a company called SLDI, Smart Light Devices Ireland, which developed sensors for the oil and gas sector, which would be fitted on oil rigs, oil refineries, things like that there. I would have written the software for that as well as doing project management and things like that. That company didn't do too well, so after 2.5 years it went into liquidation. But a similar company started up again called Advanced Sensors in 2005. So again, I've stayed as a software engineer for them and progressed as the company grew from 3 employees at the start. I was one of the first engineers through the door to a 35 employee company. In 2013 it sold for £34 million. So by that stage I was now a software manager and stayed with the company for a while until it became, until I became the director of engineering, managing the software teams, the electronics engineers and the mechanical engineers. And during that process, during that time I had 4 children. And I used to do that silly dad thing of doing little magic tricks just for the kids. I wouldn't have done it at parties or anything else for anybody else other than the kids, like coin vanishes and reappearing behind the ear, things like that there. And I saw one trick and I said, I have to do that for the kids. And I realized that it wasn't magic, but it was hypnosis. So I studied more along that line and got drawn into the whole idea of hypnosis. I started to go on training courses, and I started to come back, and I used to hypnotise people again just at parties, family gatherings, things like that there. Before I knew it, people were saying, well, can you do what you just did there at my birthday party and I'll pay you for it? So I started to get money for doing entertainment hypnosis, started to do stage shows for charities and things like that there. And the next thing, like I say, with the company selling out to the American buyer, things just weren't the same. And I took the opportunity to do this full time, because by that stage people were coming up to me and saying, I suppose this hypnosis stuff wouldn't help me sleep better at night. I suppose this hypnosis wouldn't help me stop smoking. And I, of course, took up the challenge and helped people overcoming things like insomnia, to stop smoking, all those sorts of issues, and decided to do this full time.
That's amazing. It's such an amazing journey to go from something like software into hypnosis. It's a completely different world, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't. On one level I used to program machines.
I suppose, yes.
And now I'm helping people program themselves to be better lives. So that sort of comes on to sort of what hypnosis is really, because hypnosis is not something I do to you. Hypnosis is something that helps me or to guides you to a place where you can help yourself. So that I wanted to make that distinction, because everybody thinks hypnosis is something that I do to people. And the analogy I always give is like going to the hairdressers. When you go to a hairdresser, you do nothing in that transaction other than pay the guy or the girl at the end. You sit there, you do nothing. You don't touch the scissors, you don't touch the comb or the brush. They do all the work, and you stand up at the end and you're transformed.
Yeah.
In hypnosis it's totally different. It's more like a coaching session. Or another way of saying it is, it's like, another analogy I would give is like guiding someone up a mountain. I can show you the way up Everest, but if I turn around and you're standing there at the bottom saying, I'm still at the bottom, it's because you haven't followed me, you haven't, taken my advice and guidance, so nothing will have changed. So it is about a partnership, working together with people to help them change themselves as opposed to me changing them.
That's really, really interesting. And what is the process of hypnosis? You know, people, I suppose, have not a fear, but it's the unknown, isn't it? That people don't really know what to expect. They don't know what the process is. And as you say, you know, it is about coaching and working together and it being a partnership. But what is the actual process if someone comes to you with, you know, a specific problem that they would like to address or make a personal change?
Yes, so when people talk about fear of hypnosis, they're thinking about all those Hollywood movies. Now, I don't want to de-glamorize hypnosis too much because it's a wonderful topic and a wonderful way to help people change. But people think of the Hollywood movies, and it would be really boring just to see two people sitting in a room talking to each other and people having that slow change inside themselves. They'd rather see hypnosis as something where I'm controlling you and I have the ultimate power. So that's the way Hollywood portrays it, that I'm in control of you. And the way, again, I always put that back to people is if I could have total control of you, whether you wanted to or not, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. No offense. And I don't want to show my morals too much. This is just a hypothetical analogy. But I'd be down the Ulster Bank or the Northern Bank saying, give me £1 million, and they would do it. And I wouldn't need to run a business because I'd have all that money.
And in one foul swoop.
In one foul swoop. You know, you just say, how did those guys up in that mountain just get all those big mansions, you know? I never seen them do a day's work. So it's not about that Hollywood perception, but it's nice to see those Hollywood way of things where you are under my control, the Bela Lugosi Dracula movies and things like that there, but it's not like that there. It's not about magnetic fields coming from the palms of your hands or the beams coming from my eyes to control you. You know, that's all Hollywood. But people really do think that. And I have had that reaction in the past. Again, to take a step back, I've talked about my entertainment is how I got into the business of therapeutic change. But when I used to go out in the streets and just hypnotise people, people said, well, I don't want to do that because I'm scared of levitating off the ground. I have actually got that response, and that's just from watching movies. People think that they will levitate off the ground. So this is how strong, and that in itself is a form of hypnosis. Hypnosis is about making suggestions that people can accept or decline. When you think about it going back to school, and someone suggested that was at the letter A, now you could have rejected that idea. It was a suggestion given by someone in authority, this big tall teacher at the front of the classroom, and you could have looked around and all your classmates were nodding, so that gave you that anticipation to accept that suggestion. So even things as simple as learning how to read and how to write are just suggestions that you've accepted inside your mind. I mean, what makes an A other than everybody else is somebody's told you it and everybody else is doing it, you know? So that puts that idea that this must be true. But then you go to a country like, you know, an Arab country or Asian country where they have a different alphabet other than the Roman alphabet, and that's not the case. That is not an A in their culture. So these are all suggestions. Everything that someone makes to you is a suggestion. Every time someone talks to you, it's a suggestion. And it's about whether you can accept that suggestion or not accept that suggestion. Now, inside our minds, because we're talking pre-camera about, you know, what is the neurology, how does this stuff work? So we have a mind, and if I asked you now to point to your mind, can you point to your mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
now immediately
every single person.
That's it. Now, everybody usually points to their brain, which is not their mind.
Yes.
Okay. Now, just for a start, the mind is made up of neurons. Okay, and neurons are what make up the brain. But what we now know is there are neurons, neural connections in our heart and in our intestines. Okay, so it's not just, our mind isn't here, but our mind is everywhere. From our tips of our toes, every cell of our body incorporates our mind in the way we think, not just in our brain. Okay, so this idea that that's where your mind is slightly off center, you know.
Next time you ask me that question, I'll get it right.
Everywhere, just point everywhere, anywhere is right. Okay, so our mind is made up of conscious part of us, the things we know we're thinking about, and our unconscious part of us. Now the stats are sort of rough on this because it's most people will say 95-96% of our mind is unconscious. And as an example, we've been talking now for 5-6 minutes, and I'm going to guess here, I'm not a mind reader, so it's not David Mead, but I'm going to guess here that you've been breathing.
Yes, I've been breathing.
And I'm going to guess that your heart has been beating.
It has, yes.
And yet, have you been thinking about breathing?
No, you're right, and
Exactly.
you're right, and you have to really think about those processes and the fact that your body can do all this without even having to think about it.
Exactly. So we speak, we move our arms. You know, when you were moving your arm there, were you thinking about move the elbow and the wrist?
Yeah.
It just happened. You wanted to convey something, and it automatically did it without your conscious awareness. So everything we do, 95-96% of what we do is really at an unconscious level. Okay, and some people will argue with that, but the heart's just an automatic muscle. But if a tiger was to walk in the room, your heart would beat faster. Not because you looked at it and thought, there's a tiger. This is dangerous. I need to either fight it or run away from it. To do that, I'll need more blood and oxygen in my arms and legs to build up those muscles to be able to fight or flight. And to do that, I'll need to pump my heart faster. So I'd better breathe a bit faster as well to get that oxygen going around to those muscles. You don't think of those things. You just look at the tiger, and before you know it, at an unconscious level, your heart's beating away like mad. So these are all controlled by the unconscious mind. So how does information get into the unconscious mind? So the way I like to explain it is, you think of the conscious mind as about the size of this fist, and then this large unconscious part. And there's a barrier, what we call the critical faculty. Some people call it the critical factor, but technically speaking, it's called the critical faculty. And it's the part that questions information before it gets into the unconscious mind. So if I say this is a glass of water, your critical faculty will ask the unconscious mind, he's saying that's a glass of water, should I believe that? And it'll say, well, it looks like a glass of water, by comparing all the other glasses of water you ever looked at, and said, that's true, so we'll let that into the unconscious and accept that as a truth. Likewise, if I said this is a glass of white wine, you'd say, well, it's clear, so it's light, but you know, it should be a bit, you know, yellowier in colour because of the grapes. And you'll ask again and compare the unconscious mind, and that critical faculty will say, no, we don't concur here, so I'm not going to let that fact in. Now, when you're young, between the ages of 0 up to about 7 to 8 or 9 years of age, you don't have that critical faculty. This is why if you were to say to a young child, you know, there's a purple dragon outside with a big bag of sweets, the child will most likely go, where? Yeah, they wouldn't question it. Whereas we would go, now if you had a sort of green dragon, because I know dragons are usually green, but purple I'm not too sure about. And a bag of sweets, well, if they're like Tyrannosaurus Rex and they've got little hands, they couldn't actually hold a bag. So we would do that critical faculty analysis of what we're doing. So what hypnosis does is gets you to drop that critical faculty, so that any suggestion, right or wrong, seems to be accepted and moved into the unconscious mind. And what that's doing is giving you a wider connection between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. So say, for instance, you want to stop smoking, and consciously you've really tried. You've done all you can. You've tried the patches. You've tried just going cold turkey. But the problem is the unconscious mind has accepted that you smoke. At an earlier age, an earlier time, it's accepted that you smoke, and it's now an automatic routine. So every time you try to stop, the unconscious mind is going, but you always smoke when you get up in the morning, or you always, you know, smoke after a meal. So it automatically does that, and you can ask smokers, and a lot of them will say to you, you know, I'll look down and the cigarette's already lit before I even realise. And I've probably taken 2 drags of the cigarette before I even realise I lit the cigarette. That's because the brain is so accustomed to setting the knife and fork down, reaching for the cigarettes, reaching for the lighter, lighting the cigarette, taking a few drags, and you look down, oh, I was going to do that today. Okay? It's built up that unconscious pattern. But by dropping that critical faculty, we can get the unconscious mind to talk to the conscious mind. Reverse my directions of movement there. The conscious mind can talk to the unconscious mind to seek alignment. And that's why, again, hypnosis is not this all-powerful thing, because if you come to me and you say, I want to stop smoking, but I really like that smoke just before I go to bed, then you don't really want to stop. So I can't get you to stop because your conscious mind still wants to, and your unconscious mind is running that pattern to keep you going in that way, so there's no misalignment. So hypnosis is about getting you to align with your conscious mind to stop that. Now the good news is most people that come to me really want to stop their nail biting, really want to stop grinding their teeth, and they've tried everything and they just haven't got that connection between the conscious and the unconscious mind. So that brings me back to what I was saying earlier, that it's not something I do to you. I don't say, you will stop grinding your teeth. I get your conscious mind to talk to your unconscious mind, and you stop yourself.
That's such an interesting process, and as you say, just seeing the science behind it and the thought behind it makes it so much a clearer process, I suppose, rather than, as you say, the things that we see on TV where we think it's you saying, oh, stop smoking, and then you just wake up and then you stop smoking. And what does it actually feel like to be hypnotised? And people have this idea that you kind of have this outer body experience. Is that true?
That's a lovely question to ask. What does hypnosis feel like? And the best way to tell you and to tell the viewers watching is to explain, just do this little experiment. So I'm going to ask you and everyone watching the video just to close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay, and you can still hear my voice, and you can still feel the chair at your back, and you can still feel your legs are crossed, one leg over the other. And that's what it feels like to be hypnotized. If you open your eyes, the room, well, normally I say the room's not all white, but right now we're in a white room. But the chair has not turned white. I have not turned white. Everybody thinks that the sounds will just disappear and there'll be complete silence and they won't hear anything. Again, bad example in this situation because everything's quiet but me talking. But, again, if you watch some of the YouTube videos, I go out in the streets of Belfast and just hypnotise people with buses going past, with people walking up and down, cars tooting their horns. You continue to hear all those things. It's just your focus is on what I'm talking to you about, and it doesn't bother you, disturb you in any way. So it's not that you don't hear these things, it's not that you feel like you're floating. You don't even need to feel relaxed. Now a lot of people will come out of the hypnotic process feeling relaxed, but relaxation, and this is again another common myth, you don't need to be relaxed to go into hypnosis, you don't need to be relaxed coming out of hypnosis. It's just, it is a relaxing state of mind and people will feel relaxed at times. So again, that's another common myth to overcome about relaxation. But in terms of what it feels like, did you feel any different?
No.
No. It's just, you will focus on what I'm saying and absorb that in, and because of the way I've spoke to you, that critical faculty will drop down and you'll accept those suggestions.
It's amazing. And as you say, it's dispelling all those myths as well that we've kind of been sold by Hollywood, which I agree. It's great to see the drama and the all of that around it, but it's also good to see the reality and the process, and especially in such a way that can help so many people. How would you say hypnosis in terms of as a therapy, as a way or means to help somebody make a personal change, has advantages over other sort of mentoring or coaching or other therapies out there?
Indeed. Well, hypnosis, the difference between hypnosis and other types of psychotherapy, psychoanalysis or cognitive behavioral therapy, for instance, is that, as I've explained, I'm not making any interventions. I'm not saying you really should stop smoking. I'm getting your unconscious mind to talk to your conscious mind and vice versa to get alignment. So I'm saying, listen to what she wants to do, in the case of yourself, the gender, or listen to what he wants to do, and getting him to change. Whereas in alternative therapies, it's a more long out process of you analysing yourself at a conscious level. So we don't talk about, how did you feel about your mother, and how did you feel about your brothers and sisters, and how did you feel about your teachers in school. We're not getting you to psychoanalyze yourself at a great depth. So in comparison, and again it's a 2006 study, I think there's stats on that study, comparatively speaking to where psychoanalysis maybe take 200 sessions, hypnosis will only take 6 or 10 sessions.
That's amazing.
Because it's a lot faster, because you're getting straight to the point of the underlying learnings that you've learnt. Like I say, just picking up a pen and holding a pen, well, we don't think about it, but you watch a young baby trying to pick up an object, they stumble, they fall until they've learned how to do it. But we now know how to do that, and we learnt these things, and it becomes unconscious, almost automatic. Again, the most obvious one I always say to people is, you know, if you take the car to the MOT and the guy says pressing the brake pedal, and you have that moment of, that one, you know, it's the lights on now. You actually have to think about which pedal's the brake pedal, yet we do it, hopefully, properly all the time. But when someone asks you to do something, you struggle to think about it. That's because it's unconscious. You've learnt it so well, it becomes an automatic habit. And when you think about the conscious mind, can only really handle 7 to 9 things. Well, say 5 to 9 things. It's called the 7 plus or minus 2 rule. I don't know why they didn't call it the 5 to 9 rule, but anyway. So 7 plus or minus 2 things, that's all you can actually manage in your mind consciously at any one time. Everything else is happening at an unconscious level. Again, another nice thing I can do to demonstrate that is, and again the viewers can play along with this, if I say to you, pay attention to your left foot now. Now all of a sudden you're more aware of that shoe on your foot, where you weren't a minute ago, a second ago, okay? But that shoe was always on your foot the whole time we've been talking. It's just all those nerve endings, all those signals are going up to your brain, and your brain's saying, there's nothing wrong with that foot, so I don't need to make you consciously aware of that foot. Again, now if I was say, be aware now if you're back against the chair, you can probably feel exactly where that cushion is and where the pillow is, but you weren't thinking about these things until I drew your attention to it. So it's only then does your unconscious mind serve that up to you. But every second of the day, every millisecond of the day, there's thousands, millions of pieces of information about the temperature of the room, the way you're wearing your clothes on your back and your shoes on your feet. All that information is going to your brain, and your brain's processing that and saying, she doesn't need to be aware of it, it's normal. If all of a sudden the floor got very hot and you went, ow, then that's because your brain's now serving that information up, saying the temperature of the floor has changed, or your shoe's getting hot for some reason, so it makes you aware of it. Other than that, your unconscious mind just nullifies that out.
It's amazing. I suppose hypnosis is so targeted, and so, I suppose, targeting something that you really want to change, or that you feel that you want to make better, or you want to do better. Exactly. It's very, very targeted, and because as you say, with the psychotherapy or something else, it might be a long process. With hypnosis, it's very targeted. And is there a difference between being a hypnotist and a hypnotherapist?
That's a good question. I call myself a hypnotist, and the way I look at it is, what I'm doing is not therapy. I'm just changing the way people think, okay? And I'm getting them to change the way they think. So if you Google the word therapy, it means to overcome a disorder. And I don't like the word disorder. I don't think people have disorders. And again, this comes back to my time working with computers. Now, as I said, I'm a software engineer in a previous role in life. And dare I admit it, there may have been a few software bugs in my time that I put into code. And think about what a software bug is. A software bug is basically something that's not doing what the customer specification asked for. The software was written the way I wrote it, right or wrong. So there's no problems with the software. If it's putting last name first when the specification said first name last, then it's doing what I wrote. So there's no problems with the software. It doesn't have a disorder. And the chips and the hardware, the computer, the keyboard, the screen, they're not broken. They don't have a disorder. So there's nothing wrong with the computer, and there's nothing wrong with the software. It's working perfectly. It's just not doing what it was asked to do, or what you wanted to do. So that's the same with people. If someone has an anxiety, if somebody has a depression, if somebody's biting their nails, they've learnt to do it. They've learnt to do it in response to something. So there's a stimulus and a response. Okay, it might have been that they were nervous about standing up and speaking in front of an audience, and they put their hand in front of their mouth, and from now on they start to bite their nails every time they're nervous. But they learnt to do that in response to something, and they're doing it very well, just like they programmed themselves to do. So there's nothing wrong with the program they're running, and there's nothing wrong with their body. Okay, that's another side. That's the medical industry and physical issues. So there's nothing wrong with the person, nothing wrong with the program they're running. It's just not the program they want to do. It's not meeting the new customer specification, as it were, as we would have said in the software days. So hypnosis for me is about changing the way people think, and that's why I don't use the word therapy. Technically speaking, it's all hypnotherapy, and I'm clumped in there with all the other hypnotherapists, and it's not to insult them. It's just the way I see it, and the way I like to frame things. That people don't have disorders.
No, it's so interesting. And so, obviously people come with loads of different, probably very physical conditions like biting their nails or smoking, but there's obviously the more probably deeper set like depression, anxiety. Would you have people coming to you to see if there's something that you can do to help them with that?
Indeed. Again, when you look at most of the problems, they boil down to either an anxiety or depression. Now, it doesn't mean you're being diagnosed with depression or diagnosed with anxiety, but at a higher level, you're thinking about anxiety is about something that hasn't happened yet that you're worrying about. So it may be that you've got anxiety for going to a job interview. You might have anxiety about being bitten by a dog, so you're worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. So a phobia is really a type of anxiety. You're worrying about dogs biting you, or you're worrying about birds fluttering around your head or something like that there. Whereas depression is thinking about something that has happened in the past. So thinking in that way, most of the things that people come to me with are either about overthinking about things that have happened in the past, which whether they're diagnosed with depression or not, I would clump into that depression region, or anxiety, which is thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. So fears and phobias, the fear of spiders, fear of birds, fear of flying. These are all anxieties. These are all thinking about things or worrying about things that haven't happened and may never happen. But every time you think about these things, you're firing something inside your brain that gives you an uncomfortable feeling. And again, to go into a bit of the science side of it, that's called Hebb's law. And it's an oversimplification to say this, but it's neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're thinking about flying and you have a bad feeling in your body, so one set of neurons are firing as you think about flying, another set of neurons are firing inside your brain to cause you to worry, and it says, oh, those things are linked, and it makes an association. So then after a while you'll generalize out. So you might have had one bit of turbulence when you were flying once, so you're thinking about that plane, having an uncomfortable thought, Hebb's law kicks in, and those two neurons that fire together wire together and make an association. Then next time you see an airplane, maybe on a movie screen, it fires off that memory. There's a link to the feeling. You may be sitting in a movie theatre, sitting at home comfortably in your living room, but now you have this uncomfortable feeling. And that can extend to things like panic attacks, for after a while people don't even realise they're watching a movie about an airplane. It's just there's a plane in the scene, and all of a sudden they get this feeling and they come to me saying, I have panic attacks and I don't know why. And that can lead back to something like a fear of flying or a phobia of flying.
That's amazing. Just even as you say, those connections that your body makes that you don't even know that it's making.
That's it.
For you. And actually really interesting what you mentioned, job interviews. Can hypnosis, do you think, be a benefit in business?
Indeed. Hypnosis has, the way I describe it on my website is everything, any worry, any anxiety that we have is going to affect business. Bottom line is it's about your mental health, and hypnosis is about improving and helping with your mental health. There's a lovely video testimonial from a girl, Rosemary, and I'll give her a plug, Red Office Supplies. I don't know if you allow advertising on.
Well, actually, she did supply all our office
There you
supplies, so she's very well regarded in our office.
So she has a lovely video on my YouTube channel of her. I saw her for just 1 hour, and again I do home visits, so it was at her home in Belfast. At the end of that hour, she had a fear of heights for 15 years. She couldn't go up into lifts, she couldn't go up anywhere high. To the point where, and again it's client confidentiality is very important, but this is public knowledge on the video. She couldn't drive over the Foyle Bridge. Her fear of heights was that bad. So I saw her for 1 hour, and at the end of that hour I said, come on, let's go down to Victoria Square. And the video is of her on the viewing gallery, way up high, looking over and laughing.
It's amazing.
And as she says herself, I can't do justice to her words on the video. She says, if any of my friends could see me standing up here without lying on the ground and crying. So that's one aspect of how business can be affected by your anxieties, your fears, your depressions. I work with people who have been out on long-term sick and just anxious about going back to work. Maybe on maternity leave and anxious about going back to work, and how, again, it's worrying about things that haven't happened yet. Am I going to fit back in? How much have I missed? All these worries in life that people have. So things like helping people return back to work after sick or maternity leave, getting over fear of heights. If you have a business meeting and you have to fly to London to go to a convention or a business meeting, and you have a fear of heights, for the next 2 weeks you're not going to be concentrating on your work, you're going to be thinking and worrying about that flight. So eliminating that worry, getting those worries out of your way, means you can concentrate on your work. So employee performance is going to improve if you're getting rid of and improving the mental health in those situations. So you pick about anything that you worry about. It could be your kids are wetting the bed. Again, you have sleepless nights, you're getting up during the night to change sheets and whatever, you're coming into work, that's going to impact your work. So while these things aren't maybe directly linked to work, anything in your family that's going on in your life that's distracting you from focusing on your business, that's going to impact your life. But I do also work with businessmen for things like procrastination.
I would say that's a very popular service.
Indeed. Businessmen, you come to me because again, usually sole traders or small businesses, and they're doing the bit they love. They might be, say, camera people, so that they love coming and doing the camera work or doing the interviews, but when it has to go back and do the editing, or maybe has to go back and do the write-ups and the paperwork or filing the expenses claims, they put that aside and they procrastinate over that sort of stuff until the point where it comes to tax return day, which is not far away. It's December now, coming up to January.
You're not mentioning it in this office.
That's it. Exactly. So those things are usually put off. In extreme cases, it can be very detrimental to the business. So working with business people for things like procrastination, I've had people coming to me for improving their memory. They know the information, but maybe when they're in front of a customer, their mind goes blank and they can't recite the information, which again makes them look bad in front of the customers, and again just becomes a spiral in terms of them feeling worse about their business. So all those sorts of issues can be helped
so
with
there's
hypnosis.
so many issues there that, as you say, can be really translated into the business world, and issues that can be addressed to really help increase productivity and staff stress and stress
Exactly.
in the workplace. And as you say, sometimes stress in the workplace isn't actually directly related to the workplace. It could be something that's going on in the family, but you don't know that's happening. So interesting. And I know you're interested in NLP as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So NLP is one of the things to study. NLP is a branch of hypnosis. NLP started by Richard Bandler's probably the most famous person, but John Grinder. And it was a study of a very famous hypnotist called Milton Erickson, that many would call the father of modern hypnosis, as well as several other well-known therapists, and looking at the way they help people change and help improve their life. So NLP is really the study of that, the language patterns that those therapists used, especially Milton Erickson, and how they improved their business and improved their life and helped people change. So NLP is the study of just one aspect of hypnosis in terms of language patterns and the way it's used.
And obviously you've done a little bit of research into it. What would people be using NLP for in the business world? Again,
it's about ways of communicating, ways of persuading people to do things. And again, coming back to hypnosis is not that master control, so you can't persuade people to do things they don't want to do. But sometimes people will want to do things and they're on the edge and they're not certain about it. So NLP can help you to use your language patterns to guide them in the way that they've indicated they want to go anyway.
So it's about, as you say, giving people probably just that little tip over the edge where
That's it.
they're teetering, but they haven't maybe just made that full decision, but you
Indeed.
are able to maybe just support that. And in terms of your training, you obviously did a lot of studying, and is there obviously a course or something that you have to go on to become a hypnotist?
Again, there's lots of different courses to learn how to do hypnosis. In fact, I do training myself. So, if you're interested, the next one's coming out in January. Little plug for myself. But even if you go on my website, you'll see everyone that I've trained with, and those are the top names from around the world. People like James Tripp in the UK, or Melissa Tears and Kelly Woods from the US, Justin Trance, a famous Las Vegas stage hypnotist, as well as people like Andrew Austin, who his background is in NLP, and his work is very hypnotic, but he works with metaphors. He works with the movement of the eyes to help people overcome things. And again, that's all branches of hypnosis. So there's a wide range of people, and I'm still learning. Just last month I was speaking at the UK Hypnosis Convention, and not only did I speak, but I learned a lot of new tools and techniques. Even now, I'm doing this now, coming on 9 years. And hypnosis, again, one of the myths is hypnosis is just this object, this thing that you do, full stop. And it's an ancient thing that's been going, and it has been going since the Egyptians and the ancient Chinese rituals. But it's still an ever-growing field, and there's still a lot to learn, and a lot of techniques and a lot of nuances in the way people do things.
Yeah, and it's so important for any business to be constantly innovating and keeping up to date and training and retraining and keeping ideas fresh. And you obviously came from a very almost corporate-y sort of world into setting up on you by yourself. I mean, how did you find that change from being surrounded by people and having a team and having staff to just being yourself?
Well, again, when I thought about that in the past, but when you look at my career as I've described it, actually when I joined Nortel, the main research design centre didn't exist in Monkstown. So I had to fly to England. My first 6 months of my job was getting up to speed in England while the building was being built. So in a way, that was a new start company, even though it was a major corporation, a Canadian and global corporation. I then moved to Fujitsu. I sort of left that out of the CV at the beginning there. I moved to Fujitsu when they were setting up their software center, so I was the fifth guy through the door. So again, that was a new start operation, even though Fujitsu, a major corporation. And then I moved to help my friends start up SLDI and then Advanced Sensors. And again, as I say, there's only a 3-man team. So I'm quite used to being at the start of ventures and being in a small team. So this is the first time I'm being a sole trader. But very interesting as well. I mean, I love it. And as you can probably see, I brought that corporate look and feel, rather than just calling myself Turan the Hypnotist, which again is one way of branding yourself just as the individual. I've gone with the company name of Feel Good Hypnosis. And one of the reasons for starting off that way is I actually taught my son to be a hypnotist as well. And now my other son, I've got 2 boys and 2 girls. My 2 boys also do the hypnosis with me, and you'll see them on the YouTube channel as well.
That's amazing. So it's becoming a family business then?
Well, that's it. That's it.
You're moving away from the sole trader into the family business realm, so it's really interesting.
Indeed. They have their own jobs, so this is not their full-time career, but especially in the entertainment side, if we're going out doing a show or going out in the street to do some street hypnosis or at a health and well-being fair, they'll join me in demonstrating how much fun hypnosis is.
That's really, really interesting. And what sort of challenges in starting up and being a sole trader, what sort of challenges would you have met with and that you had to overcome?
Well, hypnosis is quite an easy thing because I don't need many props at all. So again, one of my key things that I do, as I said, is I do home visits. And I've got that confidence from just going out, stopping someone in the street with their permission and hypnotizing them. So I can do it anywhere. So apart from the usual, keeping expenses, I've said earlier, and tracking things like that there, it's very easy to set up to be a hypnotist. The key thing is having those skills and not just knowing how to hypnotize someone, but also the change work side of knowing how to implement suggestions to help people change.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask you. I was, thinking about the idea of training to be, a hypnotist or training in hypnosis. But obviously, there's a massive other wealth of skills that you need to have to go with it.
That's it. That's it. So it's no two people are the same, and that's one of the things you learn very early when you're learning to hypnotize people, that everyone will react differently to the same suggestion. So it's about understanding and being able to improvise, being able to work on the fly. Often, I'll say to my wife, "Oh, there's someone coming for teeth grinding around, for instance," and they say, "Oh, what are you going to do with them?" And I said, "Well, I don't know until they get in the chair. Until someone's with me, I don't know how they're going to react, because it's 100% reacting to what people are doing and the way they're reacting themselves."
Yeah, so it's definitely an on your feet, thinking on your feet job, and treating everybody as individuals. Yeah. And obviously the skills that you have in terms of being a real people person and being able to read people are really essential. Indeed. In this.
Indeed.
And really being able to understand the process that people are going through and the fears that they have, and making them feel comfortable. Obviously that's a big element of it, is actually, people would have fears. Would you have people coming to you with a massive fear or a block, or I suppose what I'm thinking of is, people come maybe not fully believing somebody's sent them to you. How do you overcome that?
Well, that's very important. I got a lot of phone calls, I got a lot of inquiries, someone ringing up and saying, "Can you help my husband stop smoking?"
Yeah, that's what I mean. Somebody has advised them that they need your service, rather than they're fully bought into it themselves.
That's it. So the first question I ask is, well, do they want to stop? And it's just, well, I stopped, so I want him to stop. And I says, well, that's not what I'm asking you. Does he want to stop? So there's the odd time, and probably stop smoking is one of the few things where I will get this. If someone comes and they have an anxiety or a fear or phobia, or they're feeling depressed, they want to get rid of this feeling. They don't want that feeling anymore. So there's no blocks or boundaries. But it's important that when someone contacts me, again, just last night, I was working, and again, publicly on social media, so I can talk about it. There's a girl I met. I don't know if do you know Gavin Wall from the Wall Group?
Yes.
He ran the Greatest Showman event for charity, and the person I was sitting next to in the cinema watching the Greatest Showman, Olivia Muldoon, she's a hair and beauty specialist, and she put up this video on YouTube saying, "I'm turning 40 and I still don't have a man. I need some help here." So I contacted her saying, well, did you ever consider maybe that was just a mindset thing within you, that you're filtering out certain people from your life, maybe filtering in a type of person that you really don't want to go for, but you keep going for the same type of person? And she was open to the hypnosis, and we worked with her, and so someone contacted me last night saying, I saw that social media post and I'm very interested, because I'm single and finding it hard to find the right man. Can you help me? And again, she says, well, I've also got a friend who would like similar work done. And I said, look, let me speak to them, because it's important that I get feedback from them that they really want this, and that any fears or issues that they have are put aside. Again, if somebody comes in and think they're going to levitate off the chair, even if they go into trance beautifully, and even if their mind accepts the suggestions that are put in, they're going to wake up and consciously go, I didn't levitate, so this mustn't have worked. And if this doesn't have worked, all those suggestions will not be accepted. So the critical faculty can undo all the good work if I don't put aside all their fears before I start. So that's an important part of the process as well, is getting that rapport. Even the chap I was working with last night, I said, we need to have rapport. If you come in the room and you say, this guy's not going to help me, then there's not going to be that click, and it's not going to be, positive to work with.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. A lot of it is about changing your mindset, isn't it?
People, anything you can think of that you're not happy about, apart from a broken leg, if it's not physical like that, it's in your mind. And simple things like just listening to what you're saying to yourself. One of the main things I do, again, at the start, people think maybe they're going to ask you to close your eyes. Now, I did that little experiment just so you could feel it, sense what it's like. But you don't even need eye closure to go into hypnosis. you know. And a lot of things I do are, like I say, Andrew Austin's metaphor work of just asking people what it's like, to help them describe things. A lot of people will come in and feel depressed, and what's it like? Oh, it's like I'm in a rut. And they'll ask them to explain, well, how deep's the rut? And people go, that's about, 3 feet high. And I said, well, what could you do if you were in a 3 foot high rut? Well, I suppose you could step out of it. And sometimes having that realization that they feel like they've been in a rut and they can just step out of it anytime they want to can be enough before they even go into what we would call formal trance work. Because, and some people say when I say what's it like, well, it's like I'm walking a tightrope, and again I say, well, how far is the tightrope off the ground? It's just a phrase. And I says, it's more than a phrase, because you've described it like a tightrope. So you're comparing it at a metaphorical level inside your mind. And what you don't realize when you start thinking about it, your unconscious mind has built up a bigger picture than you actually think. I can ask people, well, what's the tightrope made of? And, oh, it's rope. And how thick is it? Oh, it's one of those big thick ones. So it's not that hard to walk on, hard enough, but it's not that hard to walk on. And I says, how far can you see into the future? Well, it's just, there's a little stand there in front of me and a little stand behind. So it's only like 6 feet long. It's a big thick rope. So if you took a few quick steps, you'd be from one side to the other. And sometimes you'll just see that epiphany, that thought inside their mind. That could be enough to just change the way they think about their whole problem.
That's amazing. It must be so rewarding for you to see that light bulb moment as well.
It's brilliant. Now, again, some people, and I've got a lovely little anecdote, some people don't change in session. So I always tell people to just let thoughts, absorb in. And like any thought in life, you don't have a thought and then stop it. So when you leave my room or I leave their premises, their brain's going to continue at an unconscious level to continue to think about these things. So it might be, like I said, the lovely anecdote, there was one girl I was working with, and for interview stress. And just timing being timing, I could only see her the day before the interview. And she came in to me and we worked together, and usually what I'll say to clients is, give me a contact in 6 days, tell me how you're going. All the work might be done, maybe we need to do some more, but let's give it 6 days at least to sink in. So she woke up and she said, I feel a bit relaxed, which is, again, can be a side effect of hypnosis. And she left. So I rang her the next day because of the job interview. I said, well, how'd the job interview go? And she says, it was fantastic. She says, I'll tell you, I love this phrase. She said, the only way I can describe it, I had laser eye surgery, she said, and for 6 weeks after the laser eye surgery, I held onto my glasses because I didn't think this was going to work. And she says, that's how I thought about that hypnosis session. I didn't think it was going to work. She says, when I went to bed last night, it didn't feel much different. She says, but when I woke up in the morning, I realised I had the best night's sleep ever. She says, I wasn't even thinking about the job. She says, normally, before this anxiety used to come on, normally I'd still be up, 6 o'clock in the morning, reading over the CV. What did I tell these guys? What points do I want to put across? She says, I just woke up, I went down and had breakfast. And the other interesting thing, which I loved, and I never asked her why she said this. It's one of those moments when somebody's saying something to you mid-conversation, you go, that's good, and then you hang up the phone and you go, I wonder what they meant by that. She said to me, I went to the interview and you know what? They offered me a glass of water and I took it. And then she went on, had a more conversation. It was only when I hung up I thought, what did she mean by that? Is it that she would be worried her hand would be shaking? Is it that she would be worried if she takes a sip of water she'd want to go to the toilet? I don't know why she said that, but she said it in a way that, I climbed Everest in that moment. It was just one of those, they offered me a glass of water and I took it. It was such a glib comment that I brushed over it. It was only when I hung up I thought, that was an important moment for her. So yes, sometimes I don't see that change immediately, but I usually get that feedback. I always contact people and ask for the feedback. Another funny one, and there's a nice, again, video on YouTube of a girl, Kerry. She works in an enterprise agency, and she had an issue for 30 years, and YouTube video, because she works with anti-enterprises, and I worked with them at the start to setting up the business. So again, plug for them, they get good advice. And after her session, I was talking to her. It's hard because, you know, I work with a lot of very personal issues. Some of the people I work with, their partners don't even know they have the issue. They keep it private, they skirt around it, you know, and so people don't know. And so it's hard to get video testimonials. And she said the phrase to me, well, if was in there, if this stuff works, I'll give you a video testimonial. So I waited the 6 days and she didn't contact me. Oh, something doesn't sound right there. And I waited 2 weeks and she didn't contact me. And it was, again, I was speaking in Las Vegas last year, so it was coming up to traveling to Las Vegas. So I sent her another email just before I went off to America saying,
what's happening?
What's happening here, you know? And it was a week later, she replied to me and she says, oh, it's great. Haven't, you know, thought about, worried about, can't even remember I had that issue. So when I got back, I said, so I called her, I said, so that means you're going to give me a video testimony? She said, I'd love to. And it is a great video testimonial on there. And when I got back, when I was setting up for the video, I said, why did you not contact me? She said, well, you know, I didn't want to put the scud on it. You know, I was worried if I ring you and say it's gone,
it would appear back
It would
again.
appear again. So that's one of those catch-22s in life for things where like nail biting or smoking or whatever. And I say, contact me when you've not done it again. Well, yes, that's a deathbed thing, really, isn't it? You're, I'm about to die, but you know, I never did bite those nails again. That sort of thing. You know.
Well, it's a nice issue, isn't it?
Well, that's it. It's a nice problem to have, but yes, sometimes people don't come back to me, and you know, you have to make that judgment call. Will I give them a shout or just leave it be? So sometimes you don't get the feedback, and like I say, trying to get testimonials out of some people. I don't ask for testimonials because of the personal nature of what I'm working with. You know, even business people. I work with people who are quite high up but have a fear of public speaking, and don't want to do boardroom meeting talks or anything like that. They get nervous. So I mean, they don't want to publicise that they've got those issues.
But as you say, so rewarding, and all those different issues that you're helping people with and seeing a change in their lives. And as you say, it could be something very small, but it actually has a massive impact overall in their lives and changing those personal circumstances. So it's brilliant.
The interesting thing is the scope of issues that can be covered. I mean, we've talked about anything that you can think of, but again, I've worked with people for things like migraines, for IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. A lot of those start out just stress in the mind, and again it boils back to stress, anxiety, you know, worrying about things that haven't happened, or depression, worrying about things that have happened. So all these things like migraines and IBS can all be helped with hypnosis. But at the same time, I just want to stress this is not magic. This is no magic pill. It is a therapy, an alternative therapy to other therapies. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I want to get that across, because I don't want this to be a God's gift to everything in life, and I want to be open about that. But it is highly effective and it gets good results.
And I suppose it helps too if somebody's coming in with the right mindset. It's going to be a more effective therapy for them, rather than, as you say, coming in because someone has suggested that they do it. Again,
some people come in and say, well, I hope this hypnosis thing is going to work. What they're doing, again, it's going back to that hairdresser analogy at the start. They're throwing it back to, I'm going to sit here and you're going to fix me.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works. So again, sometimes I don't catch that. Sometimes you work through it. Do you have any fears, any worries about going into hypnosis and doing this hypnosis process? No, we're fine. I still cover off some fears that they might have. And then right at the end they say, they're getting up and they go, well, I hope this works. I said, sit down, we need to do a bit more work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you've just undone all the good work I've just done.
Sometimes that can happen, yes, that's it.
Yeah, so if someone wants to contact you and avail of your services then, Turan, what's the best way to drop you a wee line?
So the best way to go is just check out my website, feel-good.today. The contacts page has all the social media links from Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. They all have their own private messaging systems. Turan at feel-good.today is my email. Phone numbers, contact forms. It's all on the website rather than list off, and I'm sure you're going to be putting that up on the screen any second now if it's not already there. So
and
just
it's
give me
great
a
too
shout.
just to remind people that you do the home visits as well.
Indeed.
So it's
Indeed. It's
great
nice.
just to take the edge off maybe as well, and that fear where people feel a bit more comfortable
Yeah.
in their own surroundings.
A lot of people, I work with agoraphobics, a lot of people that can't leave the house or have great anxiety every time they go out of the house. So again, that's ideal for home visits. Yeah.
That's brilliant. So absolutely amazing. So much information there, so a lot to be thinking about. That's all from us at ProfileTree, the content marketing agency, and really hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.